Hey pillars, and welcome back to another cycling video. In this video we're taking a look at the brand new 2023 Giant Propel. This is Giant's flagship aero bike and it has been redesigned going forward, so I'm interested to see what changes Giant has made. I've worked on these bikes, I've ridden these bikes, so I'm excited to see what is new on the Giant Propel. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. Now we currently are on the Giant United States website, so all prices listed will be in USD and I will be breaking down all the models. And unfortunately I don't have a bike in hand for me to test, and even when I was living in North America, that just was never a capability of getting these bikes in hand, and now I'm in Turkey training and living, so I don't think so going forward. So bear with me, this is what we have, but we are on the website right now, and I do want to take a quick look at this video that Giant put out for this bike. I think it's actually kind of funny, Giant's new logo, not the biggest fan of it, but this is basically a good advert to basically convince every rider that goes to the cafe stop to get an aero bike before their drink gets cold, because it's just really funny, the target audience of, you don't really have to train, you get this aero bike, aero is everything, and you will instantly go faster. I know they're taking the piss out of it, like they're joking around too, trying to say that this bike's just gonna make you fly fast, but I just wanted to show this video really quickly because I thought this part was hilarious. So he's on Giant Propel going super fast and he sees a group of weekend warriors and he just flies by them like they're standing still, and they're like, what the hell is happening, like how is this even possible, and he just dusts them. So it's just funny how they really play up the fact that aero is everything, even though I believe aero bikes in my opinion do have a weight penalty, but that's besides the point. Even though the marketing 10 years ago was lightweight and not having aero frames, it was lightweight frames, so it is what it is. Now very quickly before we move on to the different models and I break it down, I just want to see from the diagram what big changes I see from the Propel. So I see that they have aero bottle cages, and that kind of gives me BMC vibes. The fork is a lot thinner than before, and that's probably for an added tire clearance, which these are all moving towards industry standards when it comes to aero bikes. And in terms of the shaping around the whole frame, you can see it's a lot more aerodynamic and a lot more beefier in certain sections, and then thinner in other sections for aerodynamics, even in the back region. And then when it comes to the stem, I think the stem and handlebar is the biggest difference that I see. The stem, you don't have that big beefy, it was the most headache to ever work on, so I'm happy they got rid of that, and they have the cables going through the front, which is going to be good for mechanic. Now quickly taking a look at the gallery, we do have the bike in all its glory, and I do think the changes made were much needed. If this is going to be Giant's flagship aero bike, then they need to eventually refine it and make it better. So bottle cages specifically designed for the aerodynamics, and if we look in terms of the cockpit, I think that's a better design that they had before. These parts of the handlebar are flat, so that's gonna be a lot more comfortable if you're trying to get aero in the hoods. So I think all in all, a very good refinement of the old Propel, and I do want to show that for reference before we move into the other sections of the Propel. So this is the 2021 model. I just want to show for reference. You see this bulkiness here, and like this is just like pre-aero because so this is 2021, but aero really became something after, I would say, moving forward. Now it's like it is the industry standard. No one cares about lightweight frames anymore. So you can still see in 2022 the big stem, and nothing really changed from it's basically the same frame. And then when we go into 2023, that's where you can see things completely change, and now we will be moving into the models. But I think that looks completely better. Like if you compare this gives me more of a S-Works vibe, where this one was just too beefy. You can see this whole section is totally less, like this is a lot skinnier, so it's probably gonna be a lot more compliant. And this is where we're moving to, having a bike that basically is somewhat good for climbing and aero. It's a bike that basically does it all. Now, before taking a look at the different models, this is the 2022 edition versus the 2023, and just look at where the Giant T is. You can see that the difference in terms of how the frame is laid is different. Also with the whole stem, that I just really want to emphasize this too. Also on the back of it, a lot thinner going forward, and then you can see in the fork, a lot more clearance, probably like easily 30, 32, where I think this one was a 28 if I'm not mistaken. Now taking a look at all the Giant Propel models, the cheapest one that we have is the Propel Advanced 1 2023, going for 6,000 USD. And taking a look at this color, it is an interesting color. I wouldn't say it's a bad color, but a lot more simple, which I really like. I don't like when Giant does crazy colors. I think when it's simple aesthetic, it's really nice to look at. So just taking different looks, you can see how They are trying to make that a lot more aerodynamic in this section. I love how the pictures on their website got a lot more clear. This is the aero bottle. You can see the tire clearance is looking good. The fork, in terms of, meeting with the stem and handlebars, like that looks so much better for an aero bike. And the mechanics are gonna love it. Drop seat stays. That looks like a good cockpit in my opinion. Now taking a look at the Propel Advance 1 specs on screen, it is a SRAM rival E-Tab Axis 12-speed Group O with a 1030 at the back, which is going to be good if you want to do some climbing. You're able to do it. Now it is press fit for the bottom bracket, which I don't like to see, especially in 2023. I think majority of bikes should just be all threaded, but I know Giant does have good quality control, so that's not a big problem. The rims are Giant SLR 250 carbon disc wheel system, so the front and back is the same. And then in terms of the tires, that's Giant's own brand. The weight is not claimed here. Extras, I do like when they put the computer mount and water ball cages, so it comes with a lot of stuff in that situation. And then the rest you can see here. They do have the Giant Contact SL Aero, so I guess this is a new handlebar, which I would like to check out for myself. And then the stem also is going to be a lot better than what they had before, but carbon frame, carbon fork, like what is not to be expected at 6,000 USD. So that is the Giant Propel Advance 1, and then we're going to move up to the next tier. Now taking a look at the Propel Advance Pro Zero Axis for 8,000 USD. Let's see what we get on screen. That is also another nice color scheme. So I think Giant's doing really good so far in terms of color. That looks really nice. I like the fade that they have going on here. Giant is somewhat known for their nice glossy fades, so I do like to see that. I'm not a big fan of these aero cages, but it is what it is. But that does look nice. It does look nice. I do want to see the specs for it now, so we will be moving down. So the colors are black, current / chrome, so that is a good mix up. Now the frame, carbon, fork carbon, handlebar, same system going on. So we have the Contact SLR aero bars, and then the stem, also the aero version as well. And then if we look at the Group O that comes on this bike, it is SRAM Force E-Tab Axis, which is going to be nice. 12-speed, 10x28 crankset. Does this have a power meter? Yes, it does. So, if you're paying 8,000 USD, I would expect there to be a power meter. I would hope so. Now we have Giant SLR1, so that's an upgrade. 50 carbon disc, front and back, same size. And then this is still press fit, which I would like to see threaded. Tires, Cadex Race Tubeless. So this is an upgrade as well. Comes with the extras and no claim to weight. So I think that looks really good in terms of the bike. I think that looks nice. And you do have a power meter, so it's going to be good. But we also have this Propel Advance Pro Zero coming in the Di2 version, which is going to be 12 speed as well. So this is Ultegra Di2, the new one. So let's see what you get for 8,000 USD. I think that color looks also very nice. I could be mistaken if it isn't the same color. Now taking a look at the specs, I'm assuming it's all the same. Just the group set is now Ultegra Di2, 12 speed with an 1130 cassette at the back, so nothing really changes. And I think in terms of color, it just looks slightly off, but still a very nice looking color. And the last Propel Advance SL0, 12,500 USD. I think this is a very funky color in terms of the blue. It looks like a mix of either the galaxy or the bottom of the ocean, so it looks really interesting. Durace. So let's see, Cadex wheels, that's the big difference I see from the two where you had the SLRs. So let's see what you get here. Wow, that looks interesting. I don't like when Giant does the logos in that color. I think it does look tacky in my opinion. Like I would have no problem with them doing, the side of the top tube like that, but when they do the logo, it just, in my opinion, wrecks it. I wouldn't want to ride a bike with that color scheme. So let's look at the specs really quick. So we have, they call this Stardust, so I was right. So it had something to do with the galaxy, but it looked more like the ocean. Now the frame, all that stuff, the highest tier. Oh, one thing I almost forgot to note when it comes to the high tiers is that this is going to be an integrated seat post, where you don't see that on that one. So that's the biggest difference. Giant's most expensive. You do have to cut that. I was hearing they have different shims for this one, so you can play around with it if you do choose to sell it. But this is like, once you cut it, you kind of set it for your height. Now I've ridden myself on an integrated seat post, which was a TCR, and I rode it for the whole season. Wasn't a big fan of it. I just think it's somewhat unnecessary. But in terms of the specs, it is Shimano Durace Di2 12 speed, 1130 at the back. press fit. Now we do have the KDX 50 rim, so that's going to be a big upgrade. That's like Giant's sister brand in terms of higher end components. In terms of the stem, handlebar, it seems to be the same. Now taking a look at the rest of the specs, frame and fork are the same, handlebar, stem the same. The seat post is going to be an integrated seat post, and then in terms of the hubs and the rims, those are going to be KDX, so that's a big upgrade. And then the crankset is Dura-Ace and has a power meter as well. You would hope to get a power meter when you're spending $12,500, but I'm not a big fan. Obviously, I think the specs are fine in terms of how it looks, and probably is going to be a lot better than the original Propel from 2021, 2022. But in terms of this color scheme, not a big fan of it. I think the best looking one that we have out of the whole bunch, I think this one's a really solid one, which is the Advanced Pro Zero. And compared to the first one, yeah, I think the Advanced Pro Di2 is probably the one that I would get in terms of bang for your buck and also color scheme, because I'm not a big fan of that. I'm not a big fan of that, and I don't really care for the integrated seat post. Now I'll give you my Peller thoughts and analysis of the new Propel. I think it is a lot better than the older iteration. I think it's more modern to a lot of the common things that you would see in an aero bike. Would I choose to ride a Propel? Probably not. I'm still a big fan of the TCR. I think it's just such a good overall bike for climbing and for just fast rides and training, and I think it has everything. I think for me to ride a dedicated Propel, it would take a lot of criterium racing or a lot of circuit racing, where I would choose that as my daily driver, where I think the TCR is just the best of both worlds. But I do think, you know, how the industry is going in terms of arrows, everything, you know, Giant just had to make those changes to the Propel going forward because they want to be competitive, and just the older version just looked so outdated. You know, I remember their first iteration of the Propel. I didn't even want to think about that one, but it just looked too dated, and you can see that they've made it a lot more modern, especially with the backseat stays and just that region, making it a lot more compliant probably. So it's going to be probably a better ride if I would have to assume. And other than that, I think it is definitely a nicer looking bike. Like, I can't roast the Propel like I used to, because I used to hate the design of the Propel. It just didn't look like a modern day aero bike. It looked very much like 2014, 2015 aero bike. So I think it's a good direction. Those are just my thoughts. Another thing I wanted to note is that when anytime companies are making claims for more aero this, faster this, savings on this, I think they all could be valid. Then again, they're, you know, testing it themselves, so obviously every iteration is going to be faster and more aero and better savings and free watts. You get the point what I'm trying to say, but I do think, just from a common sense standpoint, is this an upgrade from the Propel, the older iteration? Yes. Do I think they're moving in the right direction? Yes. Would I get it? No. But I do think they're doing something that's going to be a lot more competitive than the old Propel. Like, the old Propel was just, in my opinion, you just would laugh if you had to buy an aero bike. Like, I wouldn't buy. I would have bought, you know, a Specialized, you know, Venge over a Propel. Obviously, the price difference, you'd probably lean towards the Giant, but all in all, it is what it is. I think it's a great forward, and the redesign was just a matter of time. I hope you did enjoy this breakdown video. If you guys want me to do more, I used to do it a lot on my channel, but I kind of just stopped. So if you guys do enjoy these types of videos or find value, then leave some suggestions down below of what bikes you would like me to look at, compare, talk about, and I'll give you guys my opinion on that. So if you guys did enjoy the video, smash a like, subscribe to the channel, and until the next one, keep on pedaling.